joining us from Parliament ahead of that this morning. Annika, good morning to you once again. So the committee meets to consider and adopt this report. What happens then? Then what?
Once the report is adopted, it gets sent to the National Assembly, where it will be debated, and we suppose, it'll be adopted, and then it will be tabled, and the recommendations will have to be sent, if there are recommendations, such as forwarding the names of certain former ministers, perhaps members of companies, people linked to the Guptas, to the NPA for criminal prosecution, or at least criminal investigation. There may have been breaches of the Executive Code of Ethics. There may be recommendations that certain big companies implicated in the Eskom inquiry, such as KPMG and McKinsey, be investigated or sanctioned in some way by the professional bodies. All those sort of recommendations will need to be taken seriously and forwarded to the appropriate bodies. We've seen in the past when those recommendations were made, they were not necessarily followed up, and we looked at what comes to mind is the SABC inquiry, for instance, and Faith Mutambi accused of perjuring herself. So it'll need political will. It'll also need a strong new NDPP, a new National Director of Prosecutions, to take this forward. But I really think that this Public Enterprises Portfolio Committee heralded the way and opened the door for these state capture inquiry investigations to take place. I think that the Zondo Commission is using a lot of its work to unpack and take away brick by brick the architecture of state capture, which has become part of the national lexicon.
So, Annika, we've got now the parliamentary inquiry. This is their report. We've got Eskom coming up, like you say, at state capture as well. So what happens when we get the different outcomes? What's in this report? What comes out of state capture? What then for Eskom itself, and what needs to be done?
Well, there is a completely new board and there's a new CEO. So remember that one of the MPs that was, cross-examining some of the former Eskom employees and Transnet and other people who were on the boards was Pravin Gordhan himself when he was an MP. So a lot of what went on in this inquiry, he would have been privy to. He sat in on those, and as Public Enterprises Minister, he certainly tried to, in his words, clean out the rot. So a lot has changed since then. Lynn Brown is no longer Public Enterprises Minister. She denied for many of the questions and for many years that she had any prior knowledge of malfeasance. But what was really interesting and what happened here was the whole modus operandi of state capture, which was making everything look very legitimate and really shrouded in corporate jargon. And it's only when you looked closely you could really unpack forensically what was going on. And also this revolving cast of characters, which I'm sure will come up in the state capture inquiry before the Zondo Commission. Salim Essa, Anuj Singh, people moving back and forth across boards of SOEs and really just then allegedly using those state-owned enterprises for their own personal gains.
And then, Annika, I mean, at the end of the day, South Africans and those who the watchdogs, those who are watching these processes, state capture and corruption, will want someone to be held accountable. They will, like you say, we are going to need a strong NPA head to pursue anything that comes out of this. People want to see, and do you foresee, or what's been the sort of observations out there? Will these reports, will these processes yield somebody who will who will be held accountable, take responsibility, and be punished for it?
Look, I think a lot of people have been punished, certainly in the revelations that took place in terms of their reputations have been damaged. Lynn Brown is no longer the Minister of Public Enterprises. Malusi Gigaba is no longer the Minister of Home Affairs. Ben Martins is no longer sitting on any of the boards. Machela Koko is no longer at Eskom. Brian Molefe is no longer at Eskom. This committee really unearthed a lot of the malfeasance that was going on at Eskom. Eskom's now sitting in a with a big fat mess, with a new CEO and a new board who are now trying to fix the institution, and that really moves across all the state-owned enterprises. So I think that there have been repercussions, but they've really been reputational damage. There have been no criminal prosecutions. And the sense I got from the Hawks yesterday is, once again from Lieutenant General Lebeya, is that they just don't have the forensic capacity to unpack these very complex commercial crimes. And that is one of the big problems that they're facing, because they have to present a watertight document to the NPA in order to forward a winnable case to court. There's no point in bringing a case to court that's only going to be thrown out. Look what happened in the Estina matter. It wasn't particularly well handled. So there's a long road ahead. I don't know if there'll necessarily be criminal prosecutions, but I certainly think that it opened the way forward into a great purge of people who were working in state-owned enterprises and were not having the country's best interests at heart.